exposure timer, and that exposure time can be changed according to the build of the patient, according to the area or the tooth that needs to be imaged, and an exposure button which needs to be pressed for the exposure. Now coming to the X-ray tube head. Now whenever we ask the students about X-ray machine, they always get confused with the X-ray tube. X-ray tube is only a component of X-ray machine and the X-ray tube head, but X-ray machine, when it is asked, then all the components starting from tube head and its various components, the suspension arm and the control panel needs to be mentioned. So in the tube head, the heart of the tube head or the X-ray machine is the X-ray tube. Now this X-ray tube we'll be seeing in detail further. This X-ray tube on both the sides is connected to a power supply. Now this assembly of tube head and power supply is encased all around by a thick mineral oil which has electrical as well as thermal insulating properties. Then the X-ray which are being emerged from the X-ray tube, it is made to pass through a aluminium disc which is called as the filter or the aluminium filter. The function of this filter is to remove the low energy or the high wavelength X-ray photon, so that the resultant beam which is coming is of higher energy. Now after the filter, in the path of the X-ray beam there is a collimator which is made up of lead, and the function of collimator is mainly to restrict the size of the X-ray beam so that the patient exposure is minimized. Now all these components are encased in a thick metallic housing which is called as the yoke of the X-ray tube head. Now this X-ray tube head needs to be positioned on particular areas of the patient that needs to be imaged, and that is done with the help of a aiming cylinder, also called as the BID or the beam indicating device, or PID, the position indicating device. Now coming to the X-ray tubes, all X-ray tubes in medical or dental field are called as a Coolidge tubes because they follow the original design as designed by Sir W.C. Coolidge. Now these X-ray tubes can be categorized depending on the type of anode as stationary anode X-ray tube or rotating anode X-ray tube. The component of a stationary anode X-ray tube includes the glass enclosure, the cathode and the anode. Now this is the basic structure of a stationary anode X-ray tube. Now in this, the outer envelope is the glass envelope which is usually made up of Pyrex glass, and I'll be telling the details further. Now in the glass enclosure there is vacuum. Now there is a specific reason why vacuum is there in the glass tube. Now what happens here is the electrons from the cathode, they move towards the anode, which results in X-ray production. But if there are gas molecules in the X-ray tube, the electrons from the cathode, they will collide with the gas molecules, and that will lead to production of secondary electrons, which will lead to multiple bombardment of the anode, and this process will be uncontrollable, and this will lead to oxidation and burnout of the filament, and thus the life expectancy of the tube will be reduced. Now apart from the glass enclosure and the vacuum, it has a cathode and an anode terminal. Now in the cathode there is a tungsten filament, the focusing cup and the connecting wires. Now these connecting wires are basically connecting the filament to the voltage supply, and they are piercing the glass enclosure. Now I told you the glass envelope is made up of Pyrex glass. Why? Because it has the same coefficient of linear expansion as the connecting wire, so that during the increased heat production, during the X-ray production, the expansion does not lead to breakage of seal of the wire with the glass envelope. So the vacuum inside the glass envelope is maintained. Now coming to the tungsten filament. Now a tungsten filament is basically a coil of tungsten wire which is 0.2 millimeters in diameter. Then the wire is coiled to produce a filament of 1 centimeter or less in length with a diameter of 2 millimeter. Now why tungsten is chosen as a material for cathode is because it has high ductility, that is it can be drawn into thin wire which is quite strong. It has a high melting point because of the excessive heat which we need to give to the tungsten to produce electrons. It has little tendency to vaporize at higher temperatures, and it has a long life expectancy. Now when the tungsten filament is heated, the outer electrons of the tungsten element, they acquire the thermal energy and they start moving little distances from each other. So that results in the creation of electron cloud around the tungsten filament, and this phenomena is called as thermionic emission. Thermionic, why? Because it, by the use or by the absorbing of the thermal energy, it is leading to ionization of the tungsten element. So this thermionic emission leads to the production of leads to formation of electron cloud around the filament, and this electron cloud is then needs to be bombarded onto the anode, which is done by the potential difference between the cathode and the anode, that is produced by the high voltage transformer. But if this bombardment is random, it will lead to random bombardment at multiple areas on the anode. But we want for the X-ray production that all the electrons should be focused at a particular point on the anode, which is the focal spot. So for that we have a focusing cup along with the tungsten filament. This focusing cup is made up of molybdenum or nickel, and it is a negatively charged concave reflector. Now this negatively charged reflector will electrostatically repel whatever the negative electrons are getting collected at the filament. So because of this electrostatic repulsion, the electrons will be forced to move from cathode to anode, and the concavity of the reflector will help in focusing the electrons at a particular point on the anode, which is called as the focal spot. And once they are bombarded onto the focal spot, the kinetic energy of these incoming electrons will be converted into X-rays. 1% of those kinetic energy is converted into X-rays, and 99% is converted into heat. Now coming to the positive terminal, which is the anode. Now anode, as I have told earlier also, it can be a stationary anode or it can be a rotating anode. Now in the stationary anode, there is a small plate of tungsten target which can be square or rectangular, which is 2 to 3 millimeters thick, and it is embedded in a large copper stem of 1 to 1.5 inches. The copper stem is basically used because of the excessive heat production at the anode, so it helps in dissipating the heat to the surrounding insulating oil. Now why tungsten material is used as an anode? First of all, it has a high atomic number of 74. So this high atomic number makes it more efficient in the production of X-rays, as we will be seeing later on. Then because of the excessive production of heat at the anode, it has a high melting point, so it doesn't disintegrate. It has little tendency to vaporize at high temperatures, and it has a high thermal conductivity, which allows increased dissipation of heat from the tungsten to the surrounding copper stem. Now coming to the rotating anode. Rotating anode basically is a disc of tungsten which is beveled and which rotates at a speed of 3000 to 3600 revolutions per minute. Now this rotation is brought about by a rotor, and in the rotor the current is produced by the stator coils, which are located outside the X-ray tube. Now what the main advantage of using a rotating anode is that whenever the electrons from the cathode they are projecting onto the anode, they are targeting a different area every time because of the movement of the anode. So the heat production which is there during the X-ray production, that heat is getting a larger surface area for its dissipation. So this rotating anode normally is not used in intraoral dental radiography, but in extraoral dental radiography and in CT and tomographic machines, these coils are used. Now we have seen that because of the excessive heat production, the focal spot or the area on the anode needs to be larger or greater for effective heat dissipation. So that means that the focal spot area should be larger. Is it so? I don't think so. Why? Because the more the focal spot, the less is the image definition. The smaller focal spot is required for increased sharpness of the image. Now sharpness is the ability to define the edge of an object. Okay, so whenever there is a larger focal spot, there is blurring of the edges of the object. As can be seen on this diagram, the image production by a point focal spot is very much sharper, whereas the image with a larger focal spot is showing blurring at the edges. Now this effect is called as the penumbra effect. So to have a balance between a larger area for heat dissipation and to have a sharper image, there's a principle called as the line focus principle or the Benson's line focus principle. What does it state is that if we slant the anode to an angle of say 6 to 20 degrees, the effective or the apparent focal spot size will be reduced. That effective focal spot will help in having the images which are having a sharper margins, and it will have a larger area for heat dissipation. So the effective focal spot is, say, if we view from the side perpendicular to the anode, that is from the side of PID, the effective focal spot say would be 1 into 1 millimeter, whereas the actual focal spot, if it is viewed from the cathode, it is 1 into 3 millimeters. Now I have been telling you कि what happens is the electron cloud is being formed at the cathode, and the electrons from the cathode, they are made to move on to the anode because of the potential difference. But what is actually happening at the anode which is leading to X-ray production? Now at the anode, what happens is the electrons, they interact with the nucleus of the target atom. The target is composed of tungsten. So there are two types of processes which can occur, either the Bremsstrahlung radiation or the characteristic radiation. Now in the Bremsstrahlung radiation, it is also called as the braking radiation. Now what happens is, when the high energy electron from the cathode, it directly collides with the nucleus of the tungsten target atom, all of its kinetic energy is then converted into a high energy X-ray photon. It collides with the nucleus and the kinetic energy is transmitted as a photon, and this photon will be having the maximal energy. Another thing which can happen is, if the incoming electron from the cathode, it passes closer to the nucleus. Now nucleus, we all know, is positively charged and the electron which is coming is negatively charged. Now because of the electrostatic attraction of the electron by the nucleus, there will be change in the path of the incoming electron, and it will also lead to deceleration of the electron. Now this deceleration of the electron will lead to a production of a X-ray photon which will be having some wavelength and little bit less energy as compared to the previous one, and the secondary electron or the altered path or the deflected electron itself will go on into the tungsten target atom, and it can interact with many other tungsten atoms. Now the X-ray production with Bremsstrahlung interactions, it produces it is produced as a continuous spectrum of energy. Why? Because of the continuously varying voltage differences between the target and the filament, it causes the electrons which are coming from the cathode to have different levels of energy when they are striking the anode. Secondly, each electron can pass at varying distances from the nucleus, and it will have a varying effect on their velocity, and the varying levels of kinetic energy photons will be produced. Moreover, each electron, once it is deflected, it can participate in many other Bremsstrahlung interactions with the other tungsten target atoms. So it produces a continuous spectrum of X-ray photons. The other interaction which is seen at the anode is the characteristic radiation. Now what happens in characteristic radiation is that when a high energy photon, it collides with the inner shell electron, when it displaces the electron, that electron leaves, so the atom is ionized, the vacancy is created. Now that vacancy, if it is filled with the outer shell electron, now outer shell electron are always at a higher energy as compared to the lower shell electrons. So when the outer shell electron, it moves into the vacant space of the inner shell electron, the difference in the binding energy of two shells, that amount of X-ray photon is emitted. Now this energy is very characteristic of a particular atom, and unlike Bremsstrahlung radiation where a continuous spectrum of energy is seen, in characteristic radiation discrete photons are seen, and most of the X-ray production at the anode are by Bremsstrahlung interactions, where a very few are by the characteristic radiations. Now this was mainly about how the X-rays are getting produced, but now we would come to the actual physics of how this process is being facilitated. Now before we move on to the X-ray machine circuitry, we need to know something about transformers, because there are three types of transformers in X-ray machines. We have the step-up transformer, the step-down transformer, and the auto transformer. Now, what is a transformer? A transformer is basically an electromagnetic device which converts AC voltage. It can either convert a lower voltage into higher voltage or a higher voltage to a lower voltage without an appreciable loss of energy. Now, it is mainly composed of two wire coils wrapped around the opposite ends of an iron core, and when the current flows from the primary coil, it produces a magnetic field, and that produces a current in the secondary coil. Now, the number of turns in each coil determines whether the transformer is going to reduce the voltage or it is going to increase the voltage. Now, if the secondary coil has less number of turns than the primary coil, so the incoming voltage of 220 volt is going to be reduced to as low as 8 to 10 volt, and this transformer, the step down transformer, is mainly used in the filament circuit to slowly heat the filament to incandescence so that the electron production from the tungsten is initiated. And if the secondary coil in a transformer has more number of turns than the primary coil, it is going to increase the incoming voltage of 220 volt to as high as 65,000 to 70,000 volts. Then there is something called as auto transformer. Auto transformer is associated with a KVP selector dial, which allows selection of an appropriate KVP for a particular radiograph, and this auto transformer will mainly be used in the extraoral radiography because there we have the kilovoltage control. So whatever kilovolt we want to use, we select it, and the auto transformer will put that amount of voltage onto the primary winding of the step up transformer. So that is how the kilovoltage control at the KVP selector dial works in an extraoral X-ray machine. Now, if we look at the circuit diagram, there is an X-ray tube which has a specific cathode and anode. Cathode is attached to the step down transformer, so it is leading to low heating of the filament, and both the components, the anode and cathode, are connected to a transformer which is maintaining the potential difference between the cathode and the anode. That potential difference facilitates movement of electrons from the cathode towards the anode. Then there is auto transformer. Auto transformer, from the power supply, it selects a particular voltage which needs to be applied to the step up transformer, and that determines the kilovolt peak at which the X-ray tube will be functioning. There is a MA control switch which basically controls the tube current, how much tube current will be flowing into the filament circuit, and there is an exposure timer which basically controls the duration of X-ray exposure. When we talk about circuits, there are three terms that needs to be known. There is something called as self wave rectified circuit, full wave rectified circuit, and a constant potential circuit. Now we all know the incoming voltage which is coming is alternating current. So it has a positive half of a cycle and a negative half of a cycle. Now during the positive half of a cycle, the cathode is negative and the anode is positive. So the electrons are flowing from the cathode to the anode. But in the negative half of the cycle, the polarity reverses. The anode becomes negative and the cathode becomes positive. So during that, no X-ray production is seen because there is no movement of electrons. That is called as the reverse voltage or inverse voltage or the reverse bias. And if the X-ray production is seen only in the positive half of the cycle, that is called as a self-rectified or half-wave rectified. Now in the modern machines, there is a provision where both the half of the cycles can be used in X-ray production, so that is called as a full wave rectified circuit. And if we are not using alternating current, if we are using a direct current, a constant potential between the cathode and the anode can be maintained, which is used in portable X-ray machines. And this constant potential rectification allows for a reduced exposure times in X-ray machine, in the modern X-ray machines. So this is about X-ray production. Now if I have to summarize it point wise, now what happens is once we turn on the X-ray machine, the current is directed to the filament through the step down transformer. Now that step down transformer is reducing the incoming voltage of 220 to 8 to 10 volts, which is slowly heating the filament. And when the filament is heated slowly and it is heated till incandescence, there is thermionic emission, and that thermionic emission will lead to formation of electron cloud. Now because of the maintenance of potential difference between the cathode and the anode by the step up transformer, the electrons will be made to project onto the anode by the potential difference, and once they bombard the anode, on a specific point on the target, which is called as a focal spot, their kinetic energy will be converted into X-rays. Now during this process, only 1% of the kinetic energy is converted into X-rays, the rest 99% is converted into heat. And at the anode, that kinetic energy or that high energy electrons, they are interacting with the atoms of the tungsten target through bremsstrahlung and characteristic radiation, and the final X-ray production is happening, out of which bremsstrahlung interaction occupies the major proportion as compared to the characteristic radiation. Thank you.